Om Gyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratashe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so, and one more housekeeping thing, even though I've begun the recording, I was thinking there was two things I wanted to discuss. Please message me privately if you have an issue with it, or you can bring it up now. But I am thinking of unlisting the YouTube videos. So all of you will have the playlist link so you can still see them, but then making it mandatory to have the video cameras on unless you're, you know, on a hospital bed or something, in which case you can have an exception, right? But by and large, making it very mandatory to have the video camera on. If anyone has an issue with that, of it being recorded, even though it won't be made public, the recordings will only be available to us. If anyone has an issue with that, please message me on WhatsApp or write me an email if you're feeling very formal. But do something, because as of now, I'm really planning. Actually, it's good that this is in the recording, so those devotees who aren't here can hear this in detail. Please, contact me in some way to express why you feel that would be an issue, because I'm really planning on implementing that rule from the next module onwards. I think it's also nicer for the rest of us as well to see each other's faces, you know? It's nice to have some digital sangha of all the devotees, right? And I can tell you, I know even in my university, a few of my professors have had meltdowns. They're saying, you know, I'm speaking to all of these black boxes. I feel like I'm going crazy, you know? It doesn't affect me too much. I'm not going to go loopy. I mean, I might go loopy, but I won't go loopy because of the Zoom calls. But yeah, it still is much nicer to see everyone. Okay, without further ado, let us proceed. Where were we up to? Slideshow, starting current slide, and share screen. Okay, so let's continue on now. We will go through the many wonderful drawings. I very much appreciated all of your drawings. I hope you had fun doing them. As I said, it's actually a really good activity. You really internalize the text a lot when you're having to draw it. What's in the chat? Mrugank is sending a laugh react. You're only allowed to send a laugh react if it's your own artwork, okay? Everyone else's artworks gets love reacts, okay? And of course, Mrugank is allowed to do that because this is Mrugank Prabhu's, his transcendental contribution, his window to the spiritual world. Okay, Śrikānta Sena Prabhu has broken that rule already. I'm not going to enforce it. Okay, so we were discussing, as I said, we were going through our discussion of the Kala Rupa. I was making the point, we have this form of the universal form, right? And the universal form is majestic, right? I was saying, Arjuna was not initially scared, was he? Fear was not what he originally experienced. Does anyone remember what was Arjuna's initial response to seeing the universal form?
Is it astonishment, Prabhuji?
It's astonishment, right? Srila Prabhupada says this, Baladev Vidyabhushan says this, to my knowledge, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this. I might be misremembering his commentary, but they all say this, right? Arjuna was not scared at the beginning. At the beginning, he's astonished. What is this majestic form that I'm seeing before me? This majestic, temporary yet nevertheless transcendental form of the Lord that I'm seeing in front of me. What is this form, right? That is how he's feeling. However, we feel a shift in the mood at a certain point, right? And then at that point, this is when the Kala Rupa is being manifested. And the Kala Rupa, to my understanding again, is an aspect of the universal form. And it's an aspect of the universal form which speaks to, well, transcendental time, right? Transcendental not in the sense that it refers to a transcendental world, but rather that it is sourced from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we find this being described, and it goes stronger and stronger in all of these artworks, as we'll see. Yes, Śrikānta Sena Prabhu, awe and reverence and astonishment. It's all very Aishvarya. It's not very fearful. But then we know Arjuna, he says, right? I'm seeing all the demigods, they are afraid of you, and so too am I. And Arjuna's only going to get more scared. Don't worry, he's going to get much more scared as we go along. So we discussed a little bit of text 24 last week. I don't want to go over it again. But let's now go on to text 25. This is Varun Prabhu's drawing. It's very nice. You'll notice that Varun Prabhu is an expert in the rasas of Shastra, because he's written here Arjuna is in the middle with the mustache. I think maybe Varun's watched too much Bollywood and not seen enough BBT paintings, because he's included the nice Bollywood actor mustache. But what is he written? Please, Krishna, stop, right? So he's captured the very scared rasa of Arjuna, right? However, Arjuna is not yet asking for this form to stop, okay? But he's, Varun is not trying to say that Arjuna is literally asking. Instead, Varun has very masterfully captured the heart of Arjuna, and he's drawing it out here, okay? I'm not elevated enough to capture the heart of Arjuna, but we will leave it for Varun Prabhu to do so, okay? Okay, so this is all very sweet. And so what is text 25? I think because this is Varun Prabhu's drawing, I'll try to get all of you to say the English for your respective drawing. So maybe Varun Prabhu, if you're here, if you could recite the English after I recite the Sanskrit.
Yeah, of course. Okay, cool.
Danshtra karalani cha te mukhani drishtva kalanala sannibhani disho na jane na labhe cha sharma prasida devesha jagannivasa.
O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered.
So we see here there's this majestic description, right? And what do we hear, right? His teeth are what? They are sannibhani, right? They are sannibhani, right? What does sannibhani mean? Who can tell me in the word for word? What does Srila Prabhupada write? What does sannibhani mean?
As if.
As if, right? Sannibhani means as if. And this is a point that we made last week, right? It is like as if 1,000 or 1,000,000 suns rose, right? What we're saying is these material comparisons that are being made, these material comparisons are being made not to say that it is even equivalent to that. These ones are only approximating the intensity of this form, right? They are only approximating its intensity. So when we hear these descriptions, we shouldn't think, oh, if I saw that many suns, if I saw what is here, right? The Kalanala, right? The Kalanala is the flame which will burn the universe at the end, right? It is what will conclude in the Mahapralaya when this universe will be burnt up. That is what will be there. It is not that if I see that fire, I am seeing what was in Krishna's mouths. You are seeing something close to it, right? So we should think that with all of these descriptions, we are not, this is here to help us visualize it, but it is not here to It is not here to give us an exact description. What is being shown in the universal form is greater than any of these descriptions. Does that make sense? So therefore we hear sannibhani, right? Therefore we hear things like this because we are hearing approximations, right? Srila Prabhupada once on a morning walk, he was saying, Krishna he was talking about the color of Krishna and he was comparing it to the sky. And he said it is not that that Krishna is the color of the sky. It is that the sky is the color of Krishna, right? Or rather the sky is approximating the color of Krishna, right? So it's similar in this way. In the same way that when you see a monsoon cloud, you get a rough idea of something of what Krishna looks like. But it is not that when you see a monsoon cloud, you are having darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? We would assume that seeing Krishna would be a much deeper and intense form of that color than that monsoon cloud. And it is the exact same with all of these descriptions. Well, as Mrugank Prabhu was mentioning, imagine at the end that we see this form. Again, the point is being made that this form, actually Purnachandra Goswami, he says very funnily, if a devotee, if a Gauriya Vaishnava sees this form at the end of their life, or even at any point, they will think, oh Krishna, what offense have I done? Actually, people are very much hankering to see this form. This is a transcendental form still, right? It might be a temporary form, but it's a transcendental form of the Lord, right? So many people are hankering to see it. But if a Gauriya Vaishnava sees it, they will think, what offense have I done, Krishna? How have I offended your lotus feet? What did I do wrong that you're showing this form to me? Please show me some other form, right? Okay. Anyways, let's keep on going then. Oh, okay, Mrugank Prabhu is referring to the drawing. In that case, we can only pray to have such transcendental darshan as to see this drawing. Okay, let's keep on going. Text 26 to 27. I believe, because we've had two drawings, oh, a good point. Śrikānta Sena Prabhu has said this is Canto 2 qualification. So the universal form that's being mentioned here, I wanted to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now because Śrikānta Sena Prabhu has very nicely spurred this along. We might know, I don't know how many of you have read Srimad-Bhagavatam. I feel like a handful of you have. And maybe a handful more have read the second canto. It's very famous, right? Every time we try to read Srimad-Bhagavatam, most people stop at Canto 3. So maybe some of us more have read to the second canto. We'll hear descriptions in the Srimad-Bhagavatam of a universal form, right? That is a different universal form to this universal form. The universal form of Srimad-Bhagavatam is a material form, okay? The universal form in Srimad-Bhagavatam is composed of the material planets and everything. It's not a transcendental form. Both are temporary forms, and we will touch upon that a tiny bit later. I have a slide after we get a little deeper into this chapter of a purport. From if any of you want to check it later, in case we don't get to that slide, it's text 5 of the 11th chapter. This form that we are discussing right now is a transcendental form. It's a direct expansion of Krishna, right? It's not a material form. It's a temporary form. Therefore, we have all of this engagement with demigods and everything, and he's, undergirding all of material reality, but it still is transcendental. Okay, the universal form discussed in Srimad-Bhagavatam. I think most of us have some idea what I'm referring to, right? We've seen the paintings, right, where it's like some planetary systems make up the head of the Lord, other planetary systems make up his arms like this, right? That universal form is a material one because that is gazing upon this world and meditating and using it as a way to meditate upon this world in a connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, as Śrikānta Sena Prabhu has said, mountains and stones and trees as hairs, right? This is a material universal form. So they're actually two distinct universal forms. And I'm sure Śrikānta Sena Prabhu already knew that, but he brought up Canto 2, so I really wanted to mention that point just for those of us who've read Srimad-Bhagavatam or read at least up to Srimad-Bhagavatam, up to that section. Yeah. Okay, so that was a little side note, but a very valid one. I'm very happy we got to touch on that. Okay, so I believe this was Sri Mataji and I believe this was Sri Mataji and
Vidhi,
who else?
Prabhu.
And
Vidhi.
Vidhi Mataji, yes. Yes, okay. So both of these are really cool drawings. I'm loving both of them. So I'm not sure who I'm going to have read out the English. Let's have Vidhi Mataji read out the English. Okay. Ami cha tvam dhritarashtrasya putraha. Oh yeah, there's clapping. Sarve sahaiva vani pala sangahi bhishma drona sutta putra tatha sau sahasmadiyar api yodha mukhayaihi vaktrani te tvaramana vishanti damstra kara. Sorry, one second. I've been having a really dry throat recently. Damstra karalani bhayanakani kechid vilagna dashanantareshu sandrashyante churnitair utamangahihi.
All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings and Bhishma, Drona, Karan, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouth, and some I see trapped with their heads smashed between your teeth.
Jai, 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 Jai. So, again, we are continuing our very rustic descriptions of the Lord. This is a very different form than we're used to. This is not the form that we will particularly be meditating on Janmashtami this weekend or on Radhashtami the weekend after, right? So this is very intense. We hear now that at this point we are hearing a specific description of the Kala Rupa, okay? Baladev Vidyabhushan, he comments upon this. So far, the Kala Rupa that we were hearing a description of how the Kala Rupa is relating to all of the universe already, right? So, can you all still see the slide? Yeah. We were hearing a description of the Kala Rupa, and we were hearing how it is engaging with the world at the current moment, right? So we were hearing about how it's processing all of the worlds, how it's doing this and that, right? All of the many faces, terrible teeth, and with this, all of the worlds are placed within it, etc., etc. Now what we're hearing is how this universal form, especially in this Kala Rupa sense, engages with the future, right? Now we were hearing about how it will engage with future interactions with the world as it will be, right? And so we are hearing about how the Supreme Lord will engage with all of the people on the battlefield. Baladev Vidyabhushan in his Tika, in his commentary, he mentions that that previously, what did Krishna say? He said, see whatever else you desire to see, right? What is your desire? I will show it to you, right? And Baladev Vidyabhushan says, actually, this text here is where Krishna is finally, or rather, where we're hearing that this aspect is where Krishna has finally revealed what Arjuna is after, okay? And this will continue over the next 5 verses, and then we will transition into the section where Krishna is primarily then speaking. So what are we hearing then? What is it that Krishna wanted to show Arjuna because Arjuna wanted to see it? What is it? It is that actually, eventually, all of these sons of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, all of these people, right? All of them, they are eventually killed by Krishna, right? Why? Because Krishna is the Kala Rupa, right? Time will destroy all things. The word Kala can also mean death, right? And so you'll see some Bhagavad-gītā translations, they will translate Kala as terrible time, right? I think that's a bit too cheesy, in my opinion, but I can see why they make that translation decision. This word Kala can mean death, it can also mean time, right? And so it brings out these poetic connotations, right? Of death, of time which is deathly, right? And therefore we'll hear terrible time. So all of these things, all people are being consumed by the mouths, right, of this terrible time. And then, of course, we hear again another intense description of how how these people are being destroyed by time, how terrible time is, right? They're sticking between his teeth, right? It's sort of, you know, when you're eating, right, and then the food gets stuck in between your teeth, right? This is what's happening. This is how much the Kala Rupa is just devouring all of existence, right? Okay, we'll keep on going, but a very, very intense image. Okay, next text, text 28. I believe this was Nitai Prabhu and who else? Actually, I don't think Nitai Prabhu is present today. Oh no, he is. Nitai Prabhu, you and who else?
I forgot Prabhu's name.
Just once.
Just
Me,
once,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, okay. Who should we have read? Again, I will flip my imaginary coin, and just once, Prabhu, you can read the English.
Yes, Prabhu.
I will recite Sanskrit. Yatha nadinam bhavaho bhuvegaha samudram eva bhimukha dravanti tatha de tavami naralo kavira vishanti vaktranya bhivijvalanti.
As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths.
So yeah, so wonderful. And I was going to say, Mrunal Mataji, he got a lot of glorification last week, and rightfully so. But I think whoever drew this on is giving Mrunal Mataji a run for her money. I think we found the other artists in the group. This is a very nice drawing. And so what are we hearing, right? As many swift rivers. Yes, sorry. Varun is number one. Mrunal Mataji and I think this is Nitai Prabhu. They are running for second place. Varun is our favorite artist. Her one this week beats everything. Oh well, we won't get to see her one this week because it was a previous text. But everyone please in the WhatsApp group go, and then maybe Varun might even lose his number one position. Yeah. We need the Divya Chakshush to probably, we need the transcendental eyes given to us to fully appreciate Varun's drawing. Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's keep going. So what are we hearing in text 28, right? We're hearing as many swift currents of rivers flow towards the sea. So these heroes, right, they enter into all of these flaming mouths. And so this is an interesting description. Baladev Vidyabhushan, he comments that in the first text, in text 27, we're hearing they're all going in, right? They're going in almost unintentionally, right? They don't realize where they're going. They're just marching in, right? They're just marching in unknowingly, right? They don't know what's going on, and then they're getting grind up and chewed by the Kala Rupa. In this description here, we're hearing that they enter knowingly, right? Knowingly. Everyone enters into the mouth of the Kala Rupa because knowingly everyone eventually goes there, right? So in this sense, we'll find that it's very, it's drawing out a philosophical point, right? Willingly and intentionally, they are walking in. Willingly, they are going there. Willingly, they are going because they know what is about to happen, right? They know that eventually time will consume them. So we find there are both aspects there, okay? Okay, let's go on to text 29 then. Okay, Jai, another, everyone, last week was good, but I think this week the artworks have increased in quality. I'm really impressed by everyone's. Who did this one?
Prabhuji,
This was
Tarun Prabhuji did it.
Jai. Very, very rasik, very nectarian. Then Tarun Prabhu can say the English. Yatha pradiptam jvalanam patanga vishanti nashaya samriddha vegaha tathaiva nashaya vishanti lokas tavapi vaktrani samriddha vegaha.
I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire.
Jai. And now this is intensified even more. Before we were hearing initially the unintentional way of how they're going in, right? unintentionally they're going in and then Krishna is chewing them. Then next we're hearing like the rivers, naturally they just flow in, right? But you know, when a river goes in, it's almost like they just have to, right? They're willingly going, but where else will the river go, right? And now it's intensified even further. We've all seen moths go to the flame, right? I'm sure you've all seen, if Krishna had spoken this Bhagavad-gītā 5 years ago rather than 5,000 years ago, I'm sure he would have used the example of one of those, you know, those electrical buzzers that people have. They hang them. What they do, it's like this little, it's like a lantern, and you hang it from your veranda, right? And it's a lantern, so all the moths go to it, but it's fully electrolyzed. So any insect that touches it instantly gets electrocuted and dies. It's not very sattvic, right? But I think it's a very similar example to this, right? They're going in so willingly, right? Like the moth to the flame. So in this way, they're going in, right? They enter into your mouth. And what does Srila Prabhupada translate it as, right? Rushing full speed, right? They're very anxious to meet their demise. So in this way, we see that they're drawing themselves in. So Baladev Vidyabhushan, he comments this, and Bhurijan Prabhu, he elaborates on this point. And what does Bhurijan Prabhu elaborate on his commentary? He says that they are, what is their willingness to do this? Their willingness to do this is because of their demonic tendencies. They're so demonic, they're rushing. It's as if they are rushing towards their demise. Okay. Sevamrita Mataji has written, oh, okay, I didn't see the message earlier. Otherwise I would have flipped my mental coin. Some fire instead of teeth. What exactly do you mean by that?
Prabhuji, Mataji's contributed. I simply was holding the pencil. So they actually, it is all their vision.
Oh, okay. So
like in a picture, there's fire as per the
Jai,
shloka
Jai.
instead of teeth.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. As I said, I like all of these artistic interpretations. This is fantastic. I'm really, I'm not saying it just to be nice. I'm really impressed this week. All of the art is really nice. Okay, then let's go on to text 30. Oh, 1 second. I'm missing the other half. There was two for 30. I seem to have in my haste, you know what, I'll stop my share and I'll include it because I want to include everyone's artwork. But while we can have somebody recite it while I while I put it in. Is anyone feeling up to say the Sanskrit? I feel like I'm always saying the Sanskrit. Śrikānta Sena Prabhu, would you like to say the Sanskrit? And then I believe Rohan and Damini Mataji, if you're able to, would you be able to say the English after Śrikānta Sena Prabhu says the Sanskrit?
Dehi ase grasamana samantal lokan samagran vadane jvalabdi tejobir apurya jagat samagram pashastavo graha pratapanti Vishnu.
Jai and Damini Mataji. Yes, that's what I was.
I'll just do I can do the text as well.
Oh, Jai.
O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths. Covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible scorching rays.
Jai. So this is the conclusion, right? Now we're hearing the conclusion of this section describing this Kala Rupa consuming all things, right? And again, as I said, these descriptions, they are stressing the future aspect of the Kala Rupa, because what is the Kala Rupa right now? Yes, it is consuming some people. But in the sense of thinking of the future of the Kala Rupa, it is consuming all people. There is really no one who escapes the Kala Rupa. Again, even the devotees do not escape it in a sense. The devotees must eventually pass away. The devotees must eventually leave their bodies. However, as we mentioned before, when the devotees leave their bodies, what is this? This is very different, right? When the devotees leave their bodies, they use this Kala Rupa almost in their service. I like to think of it as time serves the devotees, right? Because what happens when the devotee passes away, they're able to go back home, back to Godhead, and embrace their transcendental form. So this Kala, which is so terribly destroying all things, is actually another way that Krishna is always eager to serve the devotees, right? And he's so eagerly serving the devotees with this time factor, bringing them back home, back to Godhead. It's just a change of service, right? Yeah. It's just a change of service for the devotees. And it's another opportunity for Krishna to serve the devotees, which we know Krishna is always hankering to do, right? So like this, it's very different. But so then even the devotees do not escape time. So that's why we're hearing here these very, very intense descriptions. This is describing how all personalities will eventually be subsumed into that form. Now let me share again the artwork. This was Rohad Prabhu and Damini Mataji. Jai. So Rohan Prabhu did his on Photoshop. So I think it's a very interesting development. And Damini Mataji very nicely did hers more traditionally with pen and paper. Both wonderful artworks. As I said, everyone's really done a good job. My apologies for the two devotees who did an earlier text. Please everyone relish those. I think Vishaka Mataji sent hers, and she did hers with Srinivas Prabhu. And of course, Runal Mataji also sent hers in the WhatsApp group. So we can all have darshan of those later. And later on, I will compile all of these into one big one, and we can all enjoy it. Jai. Okay, so very nice. And we are hearing, as I said, finally we have heard now this description of this all-devouring form. Okay, it is all-devouring, and therefore it is the future aspect of the Kala Rupa. Okay, let's move on then. There's some banter going on in the Zoom chat. I won't get distracted by it. Okay, so then let us go on now to Arjuna's questions. Okay, and Arjuna, he asks a few questions in response to this. Okay, Arjuna, he's I don't want to say bewildered, but Arjuna, he's had some thoughts triggered by this overwhelming and intense darshan. Okay, and Jai, who did this? I don't know. This was a BBT artist. It looks like I think this looks like it was after the Jadurani era. I think this was after Jadurani Mataji's, but I could be wrong. It has some aspects that look like her artworks, but it doesn't. Yeah, I think it would be another BBT artist. I'm not too familiar with the other artists. Okay, I'm not going to read. Why does Arjuna have a white beard? Okay, I'm not sure if this is a joke. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is a different manifestation of the universal form. So I'll touch on this now. Again, Śrikānta Sena Prabhu so nicely is bringing up all the points that I forget to bring up. So the universal form was not just revealed to Arjuna. As we know, there are other people who have it revealed to them. I can't remember if we've already touched on the text or not, but we will touch upon it. There is one text which hints towards the fact that there are other people who see this universal form, not just Arjuna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed this form to Advaita Acharya, right? Advaita Acharya here is depicted with a beard. I don't want to tangent too much, but these days I'm getting relaxed with our time schedule, so I'll tangent a tiny bit. Advaita Acharya, does anyone know why it's an interesting detail that Advaita Acharya has a white beard?
He's much older to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the age, probably.
Yes, but that is correct. But does anyone know why there's some controversy even around it? Has anyone heard of this?
Is it? Yeah. So there's a couple of things, right? So one is that he's Mahavishnu, right?
Yeah.
And so he's taken a form which is susceptible to age, which is a bit questionable, but also devotees shouldn't really have beards and
yeah.
So there's that controversy as well.
The first one is on the money. The second one is an interesting one. Prabhupada told his disciples not to grow beards, okay? But Prabhupada told his disciples not to grow beards because he didn't want them going back to their hippie days. I don't think it was like a universal, like, you know what I mean, injunction where if you grow a beard, you know, throw away your japamala, you have renounced Krishna consciousness or anything. Because when we look at the altar, right, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, I mean, forget about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, half of his photos he has a beard, right? He's cleanly shaven in some photos, but in other photographs, and the last photograph ever taken of him, I'll send it into the WhatsApp group later. He has a big beard, right?
Not from the Chaturmasya, isn't that from Chaturmasya, like not shaving because that's what they don't do in those 4 months of the year.
Yeah, and Prabhupada was once asked by one of his disciples, Srila Prabhupada, can we grow our beards out in Chaturmasya? And Prabhupada said, in Chaturmasya, the renunciates will take all of their khichdi, they will throw it on the floor and they will eat it off the floor. If you do that, then you can grow your beard out. So Prabhupada was not a big fan of beards, right? That's why we don't have many beards in ISKCON. But it's not a universal injunction or anything. And you'll see some spiritual masters are fine with it, even disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Some are not. They like to keep that mood of Srila Prabhupada of keeping cleanly shaven gentleman look. But I mean, forget about allowing their disciples. Some sannyasis grow beards, right? You'll see them even outside of Chaturmasya slightly growing beards. It is, again, in ISKCON, by and large. Okay, we've tangented it off a tangent. Now I'm talking about beard etiquette. We're very far away from the universal form now, but seeing as it's come up, I'll discuss it. In ISKCON, so by and large, we don't grow beards. In the Gauriya mutts, you'll see they all have beards. And it's not that because they're rascals or demons or anything, it's just because they're a slightly different mood over there, right? Even in the Babaji circles, some Babajis will grow beards, others are fully cleanly shaven. So again, it just varies based on mood. Srila Prabhupada's general mood is that he didn't want beards, but it's not a universal issue, and you don't really see any rules against it prior to Srila Prabhupada, if that makes sense. Again, just look at the paramparas on our altar. In many temples, you'll see Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada has a beard on the altar, and Gaur Kishore Das Babaji always had a beard, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has such a long beard. As somebody who tried to grow a beard once, I can say he definitely wasn't doing that just in Chaturmasya, right? It's a very substantial one, right? So we see our acharyas have had beards before. But the first point is coming back. Now we're going back off our tangent of a tangent of a tangent. Our first Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, in his Chaitanya Bhagavat commentary, he mentions that Advaita Acharya should not actually have a beard, even when he's in the deity form. And he would say that this is actually what the Sahajiyas do, that the Sahajiyas put beards on Advaita Acharya. Now, Srila Prabhupada, on the other hand, told his disciples that you should put a beard on Advaita Acharya, and when you paint Advaita Acharya, you should put a beard on him, right? So now this is a little bit confusing. So that's why it became a bit of a controversy. And so you'll see some ISKCON temples actually will have a Panchatattva Murti, and Advaita Acharya is cleanly shaven, right? Other temples will have Advaita Acharya with a beard. No one's come to a real conclusion, so we've sort of just accepted both approaches. What to do, right? The two moods are there. Some will argue that Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he said this because he was trying to combat the Sahajiyas. Because the Sahajiyas were saying, oh, Advaita Acharya, he ages like a regular person. And therefore, because we know Sahajiya philosophy is that Krishna has a material body made of pus and flesh and all, right? And so our bodies now, pus and flesh and all, can be transcendental. So they will use this to justify their philosophy. So Bhakti-siddhanta said there is no beard in order to smash against this. Because Prabhupada knew there was no danger for this, Prabhupada was saying that. Some people will say the other way around. Prabhupada made this allowance so that people can better immerse themselves into the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Who knows? But anyways, so Advaita Acharya, sometimes he has a beard, sometimes he doesn't have a beard. So I just wanted to comment upon that because Śrikānta Sena Prabhu brought this up. Yeah, so Sanatana Goswami grew a beard and Lord Chaitanya did not like it. We also have the point that another associate of Mahaprabhu was saffron and Mahaprabhu didn't like it. So it's a little bit transcendental, like what Mahaprabhu likes and doesn't like in the pastimes, if you get what I mean. It's a real, what to say, Tarko Pratishtha, right? You can argue all sorts of positions from the Shastras. But yeah, by and large, definitely in ISKCON, we're not the biggest fan of beards, but it's not a hard and fast rule, and different spiritual masters differ on this. Oh, your brother uses this to tell you to shave. Well, I won't get in the way of Kamsari Sena Prabhu. I only offer my humble dandavat pranams to his lotus feet. Okay. Anyways, we've tangented hard on this discussion of beards. Let's go back to the original point. So this painting here is the universal form. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed this to Advaita Acharya in order to prove that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At this point, all of you should have read this 11th chapter and the purports in it. And in it, you might remember that Srila Prabhupada, he mentions this point. He says that if one is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, they should be able to prove it. And so Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is proving this point, right? And how is he proving this point? He is doing it by revealing this universal form, right? So many people, they are declaring also, they're saying, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, so many rascals running around. It used to be mainly in India, but now with the transcendental innovation of airplanes, people can, go around and say this nonsense wherever they are. So you'll see people in Europe now, they're going around saying, I'm the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And so they'll say all of these things, but we can simply say, okay, show us your universal form. Show us your universal form, and then I will accept it, right? If you show the universal form easily, I will say, I'm not skeptical at all. Actually, there was one of these godmen, right? They called them the godmen running around, right? And he was running around, and he was going to, somebody made this challenge. They said, show your universal form on live television, right? And so he said, okay, I will, right? And then he didn't turn up, and everyone was sort of discussing, oh, why is he not turned up? And later on, he gave a statement. Oh, sorry, I was stuck in traffic, so I couldn't make it on time. And so everyone was saying, forget about showing your universal form. The Kala Rupa has forced you to be late to this appointment. So what sort of God man are you, right? So many people, they'll say I'm God, right? I remember my mother, she was telling me one famous God man, and maybe some of you will know by my passive aggressive descriptions, but he would often meet people, and he would make ash appear in his hand, right? Or he would make sweets sometimes appear in his hand or something like that, right? And so one magician once, an Indian magician, he went to have his darshan, and he made a watch appear in his hand, and he jokingly said, okay, I'm God as well, right? This is your evidence, this is my evidence, right? And he was just a magician. He was not actually claiming to be God, but he said, we do small magic tricks like this, then by this criteria, I am also God, right? And this way, he very much embarrassed that one specific God man, right? So again, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revealed this universal form to Advaita Acharya to show, yes, I am also this Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so we can see very similar details, right? We can see in one corner, we can see the teeth and all of these sort of things. Okay. And interestingly enough, and this is my last point, I've tangented very hard, but once you get me starting talking about Gaur Leela, I can't stop. I love Mahaprabhu's pastimes. They're my favorite topic. Interestingly enough, this form is revealed more so in Navadvip Leela, we would consider it. After Navadvip Leela, Mahaprabhu wouldn't even say that he would be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If people were to say it, he would cover his ears. He would say, no, I am not Krishna, right? Because he's trying to experience being a devotee, not experiencing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is more Navadvip Leela. You see stuff like this. You'll also see he manifests the three-armed form, right? So you'll have his arms, Ramchandra's arms, and Krishna's arms. But all of these things are more Navadvip Leela, right? Anyways, tangential. Let's get back to Bhagavad-gītā. So now let's read text 31. And this is beginning now, our descriptions of Arjuna's questioning. Let's have, maybe Srinivas Prabhu can say the English after I say the Sanskrit. Akhyaya hi meko bhavan ugra rupo namostu te deva vara prasida vigyatumichhami bhavantamadhyam nahi prajanami tava pravritim.
Translation. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai. So now Arjuna, he's seen all of this and he is overwhelmed, right? As we all would be, right? Seeing this form. This is a very overwhelming form. And so experiencing this, now Arjuna is thinking, almost an existential crisis, right? Sometimes grihastas will say, My wife is not the woman I married, right? She's not the same woman I married, right? What have I done, right? You'll sometimes hear people will say this thing, right? I'm learning about this person and now I have no idea who they are, right? This is what Arjuna is experiencing. He's seeing all of these things and he's very much thinking, wow, what is going on, right? So in this way, he is asking these questions. And so and so Arjuna is asking this. It is not that Arjuna did not have this knowledge, though. We know that Arjuna asks in the 3rd verse of this chapter. He says, I want to see this form of power with thousands of heads, etc., 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 right? He already asked to see this form, but he wants to deepen this understanding, right? He wants to deepen it. He wants to understand it even more, right? And so he wants to hear it from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does he want to know? He wants to know, who are you and what is your purpose, right? These are very good questions to ask, right? If we want to learn about somebody, we want to learn these things, okay? So we will do our 5-minute break soon, because I think this is a good point to pause before Krishna responds. And yes, as Śrikānta Sena Prabhu has said, we are going to get up to Oppenheimer time. Everyone, this is probably outside of Krishna conscious circles and definitely outside of Indian circles. This is the most famous text of the whole Bhagavad-gītā, text 32. In Indian circles, we all know yada yada hi dharmasya. In Krishna conscious circles, I would say it's probably sarva dharman parityajya, but kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddhaha is the most famous in a secular Western context. So anyways, we'll get to that after our break. I'll see you all at 11:01 and enjoy your break. Hare Krishna. I'm very happy the way the timing turned out, because I think 11th chapter is a really nice one to do this time of year when it's very, very busy, because the 11th chapter doesn't really need so much mental gymnastics as much as the other chapters do. And yeah, and it's very, very busy. Okay, so I will share my screen. Okay, so let us continue then, and I will read out the Sanskrit. Maybe, who have I not asked to read out yet? I know there's a lot of people I haven't. Nitai Prabhu can read out the English after I've recited the Sanskrit, if that's fine. That's for text 32. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krit Pravriddho Lokan Samahartum Iha Pravrittaha Ritte Pitvam Na Bhavishyanti Sarve Ye Vastita Pratyanikeshu Yodhaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain.
Jai. So here we find this text is very famous. Actually, I will screen share. I'll screen share what Nandan Prabhu said, because then we can see the famous quote. Yeah. Let me make sure you can hear the sound. Share sound. Okay, let me know if you can hear it. If you can't hear it, interrupt.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad-gītā. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
So, did you all hear that? Yeah. So this, if you don't know the context of this, this was Oppenheimer after Oppenheimer helped invent the nuclear bomb. So he was discussing this in response to the first time they tested it, when they first saw the explosion of a nuclear bomb, right? And Oppenheimer was actually, he was fluent in Sanskrit, if you know about him. And of course, I'm not saying he's definitely not a Shastric authority or anything, but it's interesting. He's maybe a first, that quote was a very early exposure for the general public to the Bhagavad-gītā, which is why in the Western collective mindset, it's probably one of the verses that most people know, because it was for most Western people, their first sort of, what is this text, right? He has to give so much context, right? Because no one really knew what book he's talking about, right? So this text, he quotes, and you might notice that how does he translate it? What does he say? I am become death, right? But how does Prabhupada translate it? The very beginning.
He says, I am that.
No, he says, time I am.
Mhm.
He says, time I am, the great destroyer of worlds, right? This is the point I was making earlier. Maybe most of you have pieced that together, right? Kala can mean time, it can mean death, right? When it refers to death, it refers to death in the sense that time brings. And when it refers to time, it refers to time in the sense of that which brings destruction, right? Which unmanifests all things. And so therefore, we find that difference. Now, the first time I really heard that, I sort of saw that video and I thought, he's just some bogus rascal just talking about it, blah, 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 right? And I still kind of do think that, don't get me wrong. He's responsible in a sense for a whole lot of deaths, right? But I don't think it lays testament to what we are seeing here, what the point we are seeing here in this 11th chapter is, right? Nuclear weapons, as we know, if we set off all the nuclear weapons, we would eradicate every human being and a lot of the life on Earth, right? They're intense and powerful things. And so to think that this person, right, upon seeing its detonation, remembers this shloka, I think underlines the intensity of what is being revealed here, right? Of what Krishna is saying here. So again, he's definitely not a Shastric authority or anything, but I think it underlines the point that Krishna is making, because Krishna now he's responding, he's saying, how do I describe this universal form? I describe it in this way, right? I will come back to that text a little bit later. And we find this principle elaborated further on in Srimad-Bhagavatam, right? In Srimad-Bhagavatam, we find a description of what he says, because what does Krishna say, right? I've come here to destroy all of these people. With the exception of you, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. If you have your Gitas in front of you, you can quickly jump forward to text 34. Text 34 elaborates on this theme, right? All of these warriors have already been destroyed and killed by me, right? And how has this been done so? Let's have, maybe I'll have somebody recite the Sanskrit. Maybe Nitai Prabhu could recite the Sanskrit. And who have I not asked? Mrunal Mataji can recite the English.
I don't know if I'll be able to recite. I don't know the meter.
Okay, then we can have Mrugank Prabhu. He's the meter master.
Let me just figure it out.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out as well while you're all doing it.
It's the same as Karpanya Dosha, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it's a Trishtub.
Okay, let me have it.
Yeah. It's Karpanya Dosha.
Okay, so am I reading it?
Yeah.
Sapadi sakhi vacho nishamya madhye nija parayor balayoratham niveshya sthitavati parasainikayur akshna bhritavati partha sakhe ratir mamastu.
In obedience to the command of his friend Lord Sri Krishna, entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana. And while there, he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Hare Krishna. So here we find this. Does anyone know what the context of this shloka is? These are the prayers of Bhishma Dev as he's passing away, right? And probably the second most famous part of the first canto after Queen Kunti's prayers. Yeah, I think the actual meter is different, but I think the tune would still have worked. Jaswant Prabhu has raised his hand.
Prabhu, I learned this with my son. Can I sing it like
Yes,
the actual meter?
Please.
Sure, Prabhu. Sapadi sakhi vacho nishamya madhye nija parayor bhalayoratham nivesha stitavati parasai nikayurakshna Tritavati partha sakeratir mamastu.
Jai. Mrugank is no longer the meter master. Now Jaswant Prabhu is. Jai, nectarian. That was so nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah, Jai. Okay. So this text is illustrating this point, and it's a further elaboration from Srimad-Bhagavatam, right? So in obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Sri Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Again, we made this point in the first chapter, but this is really an essential point of the Bhagavad-gītā. People who skip the first chapter, you often hear it, skip the first chapter, so and so, but they'll miss this very essential detail, that Krishna comes on the command of his devotee, that Krishna comes on the instruction of his devotee, that at the request of his devotee, Krishna, he is doing what he does, right? And what has he done? He shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. We can also almost reinterpret the first chapter in this way, right? Because we hear that Arjuna says, bring us in so we can see everyone, right? And we're almost thinking that, oh, Arjuna wants to see everyone. But also what happens when Arjuna sees everyone, Krishna sees them too. And Krishna, upon seeing them, has shortened all of their lifespans, right? Simply by looking at his enemy, he has done this, right? So here we find Srimad-Bhagavatam. It is elaborating on this point, and it is solidifying this point. How is Krishna? He has already consumed all of them, right? As the devouring eternal time, he's consumed all of them. So this is the point that is being made. I want to touch quickly, before we keep on going, I want to touch quickly on this purport. This is the purport that I mentioned, which stresses the transcendental nature of this universal form, and why, even though it is transcendental, we still call it temporary, because normally we don't call temporary forms transcendental, or rather we wouldn't say a transcendental form is temporary, right? In one sense we do. We almost say it about Mohini Murti and other forms, but definitely not in this sense. So who can we have? Who have I not asked to speak? I think I have not asked. Have I asked? Who have I not asked? Bhumi-gītā Mataji, would you like to read out the English?
Sure, Prabhu. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation and is therefore subject to the temporary time of this material nature. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non-manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as a devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form, but because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any other ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it.
Jai. Thank you, Mataji. So there's just 2 points I want to quickly make regarding this purport before we start moving into a slightly different section of this chapter. Now that we've sort of wrapped up the main darshan of the universal form, really. Firstly, I want to discuss, again, I think it's very clear now how we understand. It's temporary because it's only manifested when the cosmic manifestation is manifested, right? And the cosmic manifestation is temporary, right? So because of this, this is a temporary form, but it is still a spiritual one. It is still a spiritual expansion of the Lord, right? To my knowledge, it's an expansion of Vishnu. Vishnu expands out to create this form, but I've heard differing things, but at least that's my understanding. So it's manifested and non-manifested only because the material nature is manifested and not manifested, and therefore it's not a Vaikuntha form. You can't go to universal form Loka in the spiritual world and have your transcendental form there, right? But it's in a very unique position, right? It has a lot of the qualifications really to be a material form, but it's still nevertheless a transcendental form. Okay, so that's the first point I wanted to make. And then the second part of the purport, as far as the devotee is concerned, but because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, you might think I've made a big deal that Arjuna doesn't really want to see this, right? Actually, the way our acharyas describe it is that Krishna created the desire in Arjuna's heart to see this. It wasn't something that Arjuna in of himself wanted to see. This was a created desire. Krishna planted this in the heart of Arjuna. Why? Well, Prabhupada writes in his purports, so that others may know that Krishna is the transcendental personality of Godhead. Yes, inception, very much inception. So Krishna, he has placed this desire, and so Arjuna did desire it, but not in of his own bhakti, not in of his own bhava, right? This was a desire placed by Krishna, again, because Krishna wanted everyone to know that, you know, Krishna has this universal form. Okay, so let's keep on discussing. I think Taran Prabhu was about to ask a question.
Prabhu, on Shloka 32, Krishna says, I'm here to destroy all except Pandavas. He has already shown Duryodhana in the previous shlokas where all the Dhritarashtra's and other Bhishma, Drona were stuck in the teeth of Krishna, like their heads were crushed.
Yeah.
Other thing, Prabhu, on this form, I was just thinking, this form is time, and hence only after this form, Brahma can be, or anything else, come into existence because they're all within the realms of time. Would that be true, Prabhuji?
Yeah, like you read this in Srimad-Bhagavatam when the pradhana is manifested, and pradhana is inert matter. When that is manifested, it becomes mahatattva when Mahavishnu inserts the jivas and the time factor. So without the time factor, nothing will, I mean, ego doesn't even form. And without ego, there's no material entities, right? There's no matter, really. Mahatattva, I mean, what does it make? It makes the chitta, and that's it. That's all you can make with mahat, right? So really, in order to make anything material, you need a false ego. And that's all formed after Krishna puts his influence of Vishnu rather puts the influence of time in the jivas in. So you need those two things in order for anything to happen. You need jivas and you need time. You need jivas to desire things to happen, and you need time in order for those desires to be acted out, in order for them to evolve. Again, we do believe in evolution, just a slightly different type, right? And for evolution, there needs to be time, right? And then all the jivas will enter, and then Brahma is born, and so on and so forth. Again, there's sarga and there's visarga, right? There's the primary creation, there's a secondary creation. The primary creation is when the Lord manifests matter and lets time develop all the elements and all. The secondary creation is then when Brahma assembles everything. Brahma is the highest material being, but he's only the highest material being.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Did you have another question? Or?
No problem.
Okay. Okay, so let's keep on going then. So what is the point, of course, that Krishna is making? Kalosmi lokakshaya krit praviddhaha, right? Why is he saying this? What is the point he's making? The point that he's making is that actually everyone is already dead, right? Again, Janardhan. We discussed this in chapter 1. What does the name Janardhan mean? Who can tell me? Who remembers? I'm sure you remember when we first started Bhakti-śāstrī, I would explain every single name.
Protector, Prabhu?
Sorry?
Protector?
Yes, it means a protector or sustainer of all living entities. And that's how we normally mean it. But it also can actually mean the killer of all living entities. And so in this sense, we're getting the killer energy, right? All beings have already been killed by Krishna, right? Arjuna, if you want to fight or not, still everyone here will die, right? And therefore, then we hear text 33. And maybe we can have Katyayani Mataji can say the English for text 33. Tasmat tvam utishta yasho labhasva jitva shatrun bhungshva rajam samridham mayaivaite nihata purvam meva nimitta matram bhavasavyasachin.
Translation. Therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai, 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 right? So we're hearing here, right? So because they're all already dead, right? They're all already been killed by time, right? Sometimes we'll hear about the mortality rate, right? Especially during COVID, right? But what people don't realize is actually we don't need statisticians to come up with mortality rates, because the mortality rate is 100%, right? Everyone will eventually die, right? Everyone will eventually pass away, right? So because of this, why should Arjuna stress? Why should he think that he should do anything else? And therefore, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom, right? They are all already dead, right? So one might think, oh, well, then therefore I can kill whoever I want. They're all already dead by Krishna's arrangement, right? Some people might think like this. Therefore, who cares? Kill a few people, Jai, Now I can finally eat chicken, right? I can go to KFC because they're all already dead, right? Krishna in his Kala Rupa has already killed all those chickens in the slaughterhouses. So now I can have my popcorn chicken or whatever. I don't know. I'm just basing this on the advertisements I see, right? Now I can eat all of this, right? Or even worse, people will think, this person, he's really irritating me at work. He's always saying these really nasty comments. Krishna's already killed him. I'll just, next time he says some annoying thing at work, I'll just turn around, I'll just shoot him, right? Well, can we think like this? No, right? Because Krishna is giving the direct instruction to Arjuna, okay, now you should do this, right? This is why. So Krishna is making the absolute point. Ultimately, you are not responsible for all of these deaths because I'm instructing you to do it. And already I've declared with the time factor that they will all pass away, right? Arjuna is in a very specific context, right? We should not, that's why Krishna says, just be an instrument, right? He's not saying, therefore, go and kill freely, kill whoever you want. He's saying, just be an instrument in this arrangement. Yes, apichet sudaracharo, right? The most abominable activity. As long as I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I can kill my annoying workmate, okay? It's a bit of dark humor, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, right? All of these things, they do not count, right? This is not what's being made here. Again, Krishna is saying, just be an instrument. Just be my instrument, right? Just be an instrument in this arrangement of mine, because ultimately they are all already have passed because of this. Okay, so this is the point Krishna is making here. He's not making the point that, okay, we can kill whoever we want, right? And Baladev Vidyabhushan, he mentions a really cool detail. I think Bhurijan Prabhu in Surrender Unto Me also mentions it. Savyasachi, right? Savyasachi means what? What does Savyasachi mean?
He can fight with the two hands.
Yes, he's ambidextrous, right? He's skillful with his left hand. So the implication Baladev Vidyabhushan says is that, oh, Arjuna, you go, you fight, and you can shoot with both hands, right? So you can shoot so many showers of arrows because both hands can be used, right? We hear about this. Back in the day, this is how battle would be done. If you read in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj's adult pastimes, so many arrows would be launched that when the arrows would be fired, it was like the sun had set. The sun was completely blotted out of the sky by how many arrows were launched. Right? These are the Kshatriyas used to fight before. Yeah, Jai. Fantastical almost. Okay, text 34. Let's have who have I cannot remember who. I say Vamrita Mataji. I can say the English. Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadhratam cha karnam tatyanam api yodha viran maya hatam stvam jahima vyatishta yudhasva jetasi rane sapatnan.
Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle.
So, thank you very much. So, if we all remember, pop quiz, what are some signs of victory for Arjuna in the battle?
Krishna on his side.
Krishna on his side, yeah, for sure.
Hanuman on the flag.
Hanuman on the flag, Jai, Jai, Jai. What else is there?
Conch shells, the Divya conch.
The Divya conch shells, very good.
Chariot by the sun god.
Yeah.
Yes, the sun god chariot.
Goddess of fortune.
Yes, goddess of fortune. Jai, Jai, Jai. Yes, Kurukshetra. Okay, we've got the main ones. I'm pretty sure there's a few others, but those are the main ones I was looking for. If you are all doing module 1 again, you could add this text to your list because Krishna has already said you will be victorious over the enemies in the war, right? So if we were to redo module 1, you can add text 34 of the 11th chapter, right? Krishna, he said, you'll be victorious. What else do you need to hear, right? Krishna has shown his Kala Rupa. He's shown the future, right? Within that form. And what is he saying, having manifested that future? He says, you'll be victorious. So what other words does Arjuna need to hear, right? Krishna has ruined the plot. Yes, it's all spoilers. So this is the point that's being made by Krishna. Krishna, he is addressing finally, again, coming back. We can sometimes forget, we get so much absorbed in the highest knowledge. We forget that we're on a battlefield still, right? And so here we get brought back to those first few chapters, right? And we hear, fight, you will win, naturally. And he mentions all of these people he mentions all of these individuals that he's already mentioned before. Interesting enough, he mentions Jayadratha, right? And Jayadratha, as we know, Shiva gave the boon, right? He gave the boon that he will be able to fight the Pandavas once. So Krishna, he's making this point that even though Shiva gave this boon, it won't help him that he'll be able to defeat you guys once. I have already killed him, right? Already he is dead. So he's given this sort of consolation. And this, of course, was particularly worrying because who is the military guru? Who was one of the military gurus of Arjuna?
Dronacharya.
There's Dronacharya for sure. He has another guru who taught him military arts.
Was it Shiva?
Yes, Shiva, right? So especially it's scary when your military guru gives you that sort of gives that boon to someone else, right? Because you're on equal footing then. So very scary. Okay. So yes, Drona is a very cool name, Varun. You should name your son Drona. Okay. Text 35. You can actually, now that Varun has announced that, we can have Varun can say the English. Sanjaya uvacha etach trutva vachanam keshavasya kritanjalirvepamanna kiriti namaskritva bhuya evaha krishnam sagadgadam bhita pranamya.
Sorry, but what text was that?
Text 35.
Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice as follows.
Okay, so now we're hearing, maybe if you don't remember, maybe I'll go back to it slightly just to refresh our memories, because we did it a while ago. Oh, the slideshow is so slow because these images are very big. We might remember from the overview of this chapter, right? So now we're hearing the real transition, okay? Now we've really finished the universal form section, okay? And that's again why I wanted to stress that point about the universal form. Now we're moving on. Now we're moving on to hear about Krishna as we want to know him, right? And of course, not really. We'll see the Narayan form as well pop up. I won't spoil any more. We'll read about it soon. But we've really exited the universal form section, okay? Now, that's why Sanjaya, he is beginning to speak again, right? Sanjaya, now he is transitioning this chapter into really its climax. Many people think that the first half is the climax, right? And then the second half is sort of calming everyone down after the climax. But now we're actually reaching the full climax of the chapter. So we've, as you can see here, the universal form stuff is done. And now we're going to hear about the higher forms of the Lord and how to experience those. Okay, so this is why now Sanjaya has spoken. So Sanjaya has spoken these things. Let's get back to our universal form. Sanjaya, he has spoken these things, right? And then we're going to transition us again. This is telling us now we hear again. He fearfully spoke to the voice in a faltering voice. Okay, as I said, he's getting progressively more scared. This is the fearful form. And then we go to text 36. Maybe we can have Shavina Mataji maybe would like to say the English. Arjuna uvacha sthanne hrishikesha tava prakritya jagat praharshyatya anurajate cha rakshanshi bhitani disho dravanti sarve namasyanti cha siddha sanghaha.
Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done.
Jai. So we find this, we find now Arjuna is beginning this glorification. These are actually really beautiful prayers now Arjuna prays in response, but they're very much filled with Aishwarya mood. And so what does he say? What name do we hear? Hrishikesha, right? Hrishikesha means, again, I don't know, I'm in a revising the meanings of the names mood today, but I am. What does Hrishikesha mean?
Master of senses.
Controller of the senses, master of the senses, right? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that actually the reason why Hrishikesha has been mentioned here is because the world rejoices by glorifying you and becomes attracted to you, right? And the demons, they flee from you. So he's saying that Hrishikesha, you take the senses of your devotees and you place them onto you. You take the senses of the demons and you turn them away from you, right? This is why Hrishikesha has been mentioned here. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this whole universe becomes rejoices by glorifying you, right? Just by glorifying you, they rejoice. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he specifically says this joy comes from Sankirtan. Why? Because do you see the word prakirtya, right? Kirti, right? This is where we get the word kirtan from, right? The glorification. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, almost in a sense, he's saying that this glorification is done how? The whole world is rejoicing by glorifying you by engaging in Sankirtan, right? And therefore they become attracted to you. So we hear all of these things. Then we'll continue on. For the next few, I won't recite the Sanskrit just because there isn't too much commentary on these following texts from any of the acharyas. Even Prabhupada's purports are not so extensive, I find, on these. So we'll just do the English. So text 37, maybe we can have Sri Mataji say.
O Great One, greater even than Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O Limitless One, God of gods, refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation.
Hi. 1 second, let me just screen share you. 1 second. Now I've done something wrong. I accidentally closed the presentation. Give me half a second. Start from current slide. This is me having a boomer moment. I'm sometimes not very good at technology. Okay, back. So as Sri Mataji has said, and I know I said I wouldn't comment on it too much, but there are a few things to mention, right? We are hearing that he is greater than Brahma. And as we know, this has already been described before. We've already had some description about this. But what we're hearing is that Krishna, he is the cause of all causes, and he's transcendental to this material situation. So, however, we also hear that he is present in all of it, right? And this is the point that Arjuna is making. In a sense, this is achintya bheda bheda tattva, right? Because if we look at the Sanskrit that's used, we're hearing that Aksharam, right? He is Aksharam. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, he renders this. How does Prabhupada render Aksharam in his word for word? Who can tell me?
Akshar, otherwise in Sanskrit would mean Akshara, the one who does not deteriorates.
Prabhupada mentioned it imperishable in the word-to-word translation.
Jai, right? So he mentions imperishable, right? So this is how Srila Prabhupada renders it. However, Baladev Vidyabhushan, he renders it as referring to the jiva in contact with Prakriti, right? Interestingly, right? So what he's doing is he's emphasizing that not only is he the first creator greater than Brahma, but also he is present in the material world, okay? So this is an interesting distinction. Why? Because again, achintya bheda bheda tattva, right? Achintya bheda bheda tattva, right? So the Lord is both beyond it, but he is also in it, right? This is again the great contrast of all things. Okay, so let's keep on going then. Let's just have the English. Varun Prabhu, are you still here? Jai, I can see you. You're right at the end. When I share my screen, I can only see 6 people at once. That's why I'm always asking if people are still here. Yeah. Could you say text 38 for us?
Sorry, Prabhu, I was in the kitchen with the
laptop. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. That's fine. Do you want me to share it onto the screen?
If you can.
Okay. Actually, that's a little bit difficult to do. Do you have a Gita quickly with you? Otherwise, I can do it.
I'll just flip it over really quickly. Text 38.
Yeah, text 38.
You are the original. Do you want me to say it now, or do you want to speak?
Yeah. No, please say.
You are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above the material modes, O limitless form. This whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you.
Jai. So we're hearing this principle continuing on. Thank you, Prabhu. We're hearing this continuing on now, right? This mood is continuing on. The whole Krishna is pervading all of reality, so on and so forth. The achintya bheda bheda aspect is being discussed furthermore, right? So everything is being pervaded by you. You are present in all things, right? So what are we hearing? Krishna is beyond Brahma, and Brahma is the source of all material existence, and yet all material existence is pervaded by him, right? Again, we find these constant contradictions, and I just think the best way to reconcile them is to just say that, it's a little bit inconceivable, right? There's a little bit of tension there. Okay, then next text 39, maybe we can have Śrikānta Sena Prabhu. We haven't heard from you for a while. Would you like to say text 39?
Sure, Prabhu. Did you want me to do the Sanskrit as well?
Yeah, for sure, if you want.
Vayuryamognir Varuna Shashanka Prajapatistam Prapita Mahascha Namo Namaste Stu Sahasra Kritvaha Punascha Bhuyopi Namo Namaste. Translation: You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again, and yet again.
Jai. So we're hearing so much awe and reverence, right? And soon we're getting up to another very famous section, text 41 to 42. We'll definitely have the Sanskrit for those. We're seeing, all right, all of this reverence is coming out. And what do we hear? What does Srila Prabhupada render it as, right? He says, you are air, you are the supreme controller. You are the supreme controller, you are the fire, all of these things, right? But in the Sanskrit, what is it? It's lists of demigods, right? Vayur, right? Agnir, Varuna, right? Shashanka, right? So all of these names are given, and yet Srila Prabhupada, he renders these as referring to the actual principle. There's 2 points I want to make here before we keep on going on. Firstly is, wait a second, why is in response to the universal form, why is Arjuna calling Krishna all these names of demigods? Does anyone have any idea why? Why would Arjuna start glorifying Krishna with all these demigod names?
Isn't because the demigods are ultimately, like per OBA, the demigods are ultimately provided their power from Krishna himself. They're just officers, just like the government appoints officers of different bureaus. They're sitting in the position that Krishna ultimately is the provider of.
Yes,
as a government. And Krishna's names are like Deva Amrita and Deva Deva, Deva Deva. So he's the ultimate demigod.
Yes, that definitely works.
Prabhu, could it also be that air, water, like these are the, at least at the material level, these are the foundational ingredients for life from at a material level, and Arjuna kind of saying that you are pretty much everything. Like you are all the material that I can see. And he also mentioned Prajapati, which means that who then kind of
so ultimately you're getting on the right track, both of you. And Śrikānta, what Śrikānta is, sorry?
Sorry.
I'm hearing some chaos. I'm not sure. I don't even know who unmuted. So ultimately, all names of the demigods pertain to Krishna ultimately, right? All of these demigod names are originally Krishna. And when Krishna appoints these demigods, as Śrikānta Sena Prabhu mentioned, he gives them these names, right? But ultimately, all these names belong to Krishna. In fact, Srila Prabhupada makes this point in, I think, first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. He says that even the title of thief is originally Krishna's, right? And even though thieves, we do not worship them in the material world, we definitely worship a very transcendental thief in the spiritual world. Sorry, I was just reading Varun Prabhu's message. So in that sense, all of these names pertain to Krishna. All names can belong to Krishna, right? Madhvacharya makes this point when he says all of these yagyas that we're performing in the Rig Veda and all of these can be done to Krishna because Krishna is the ultimate Agni, right? Krishna is the ultimate Vayu. All of these titles most fully refer to Krishna. And when Krishna delegates it to the demigods, he's delegating these names out. Does this make sense? So in this sense, ultimately, the ultimate possessor of all these demigod titles is Krishna, right? Why does Srila Prabhupada render them directly as air, as a supreme controller, right? You are fire, you are water. Why does he render it like this? This is because of the nature the demigods have with all of these elements. It's very hard to distinguish them. We're so used to our ways of thinking of the world where, you know, water is H2O flowing around, that we sort of want to separate the demigod of water from water, right? But we have to think about the Puranic worldview, the Puranic cosmology, where everything is living and alive. And therefore, to speak of Vayu is to speak of the wind, and to speak of the wind is to speak of Vayu, right? This is why Srila Prabhupada renders it this way. Also, Varun Prabhu, you're nearly there, but the universal form, it's not the highest material form. You could almost say it's the lowest spiritual form. So you're right there on the edge, but you're on the wrong side of the edge. And it's all right, that it's a little bit confusing, because there's another universal form we talk about, which is the highest material form. And that's the one from Bhagavatam. But the Bhagavad-gītā's one is technically a spiritual form, but it's a spiritual form that's present in the material world, not in the spiritual world. And therefore it's temporary. Does that make sense, Varun? It's very confusing. It's all right if it doesn't make sense. It took me a long while to grasp that distinction. Let's see. Okay, thanks. Yeah. And if no jiva can sit in the demigod position, Krishna sits in that position. Yeah, exactly, right? Because all of these are delegated from Krishna. Okay, next text. Who should we have read the English? Let's have Shivam. I haven't asked Shivam to read the English, I don't think. Nama Purustad Ataprit. Wait, somebody said something. Gotta run. Okay, Hare Krishna, Śrikānta Sena Prabhu. Just quickly before you go, just a reminder, we're no class next week because of Janmashtami, and the week after we'll do the class Saturday morning. If everyone can attend, that would be nice, but if you can't attend, I won't mark it against your participation mark. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's keep on going. Let's have Shivam Prabhu. I forgot I wasn't doing Sanskrit until text 41 to 42 because I want to get as many done of this. I was hoping to finish chapter 11 today, but clearly is not in my Jyotish. Shivam Prabhu, would you like to recite text 40?
Yep. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you're the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything.
Jai, right? So, Arjuna then, again, he's continuing to offer all of these obeisances constantly, right? And doing this, he just doesn't, how do I put it? Arjuna's response is that he doesn't know how much worship he should give to Krishna. He's so overwhelmed by the opulence of Krishna. He's thinking, I don't know, when should I stop? When should I begin? When should I stop, right? We hear this, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, right? We should be constantly engaged in worship of Krishna. And this is Arjuna's natural response. Again and again, right? He is offering respects in the back, in the front, on all sides, right? All of these different directions. He doesn't know, where do I begin? Where do I stop? Everything about Krishna is worshipable, right? And you have, what does Srila Prabhupada say? You are the master of limitless might, right? And what is intended here? Baladev Vidyabhushan, he says, some people, they have some might, right? Bhima is very strong. Duryodhana is very intelligent, right? All of these different things are there. But Krishna, he has all of these things infinitely, right? And therefore, he is the, what's the term? He is the one of limitless might. Okay, text 41 to 42. These ones are very, very famous, very important. We can discuss them for a while. I think, does anyone else want to? I'm happy to recite the Sanskrit, but does anyone else want to for these famous texts?
I can try, probably.
Okay. Do you know the meter?
I can probably start and correct me.
Yeah.
Sakheti matva prasabham yadustam. He Krishna, he Yadav, he Sakheti. Ajanata mahimanam tavedam. Maya pramadat pranayena vapi. Yajavahastartham mastakratstosi. Viharasyatsna bhojaneshu. Eko attvapyachutta tatsamaksham tatshame tvam mahamaprameyam.
Jai. So maybe then we can have Uma Devi Mataji. Would you be able to read out the translation? I remember Mataji said earlier she might have some slight problems with reading out. So I think that has come up here. So instead, I will ask Jaswant Prabhu to read out the English.
Yes, Prabhu. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses.
Jai. Okay, so like this, we hear so very famously, now Arjuna, he has repented, right, of his intimacy with Krishna. This very famous part is the Hey Krishna, Hey Yadav, Hey Saketi. Actually, it's not proper Sanskrit, but it's been done in order to preserve the meter. Technically, it should be Hey Saka Iti. But yeah, anyways, for poetic license, all of these things are allowed. Prem Prayojan Prabhu, after every, before every Hari Katha, he's a Shiksha disciple of Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He would always sing this. He'll always sing, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadav, Hey Sakheti, which is very ironic, right? He'll sing this before giving Katha, because what is Arjuna doing here? He is repenting for saying this, right? But we'll see many devotees, they will sing this, right? Have we ever heard devotees sometimes in kirtans and bhajans, you'll hear them start saying, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadav, Hey Sakheti. I don't know, have we all heard this before? Yeah, right? So it's funny because what is the context that Arjuna is mentioning in this? He's saying, I'm sorry I ever said these things, right? I'm so sorry I ever said these things. And what do we do as devotees? We all run around and we continue saying them. The words that Arjuna is apologizing for have said, we use to try to glorify Krishna. And the reason, of course, for this is because Arjuna is experiencing this sort of lesser bhav, right? He's experiencing this lesser mood to be reminded of the godliness of Krishna. Now he's repenting for it. But as I mentioned before, when Mother Jashoda saw the entire universe in Krishna's belly, what was her response? She was having a similar response. Wow, what's going on? I'm going to renounce the world. And what did Krishna do? He expanded his yoga maya because he thought, who will feed me? Who will take care of me? How will I survive without Mother Jashoda? And so Mother Jashoda then naturally took care of him. So Krishna, he's more pleased by hearing, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadav, Hey Sakheti, than being pleased by hearing people repent for it. But naturally, Arjuna, he's seen this, so he is responding with this. So this is why would Arjuna be repenting for this? There's some description given. I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan, they all give a very similar explanation, right? Krishna, why is Krishna offensive to say? Krishna is offensive to say because he's not saying Shri Krishna, right? He's not saying Shri Krishna, he's just saying Krishna, right? He's going around and saying, oh, hello, Krishna, right? No, this is not right. Shri means opulence, right? Shri is opulence, Shri is respect, right? Nobody refers to their spiritual master by just saying, I mean, I won't even say it, this is a little offensive, right? But no one will, people will say His Holiness or Srila, or they'll say Maharaj. They won't just say the name, right? Let's have a fictional guru, Sannyasi Maharaj, let's call him. This is our fictional guru. No one says, if somebody says, oh, my guru, he is sannyasi, right? Yeah, he's sannyasi. Sannyasi is my guru, right? Nobody would say like this, right? You'll say Srila Sannyasi Maharaj, His Holiness Sannyasi Maharaj. At the very least, you'd say Sannyasi Maharaj, right? But so like this, we have this basic understanding of respect. Oh, I don't know who said that one before, Mrugank Prabhu. Would you like to contribute? A few people. Yeah, this is not proper etiquette. I think we can all. I'm sure Mrugank Prabhu has shared that some people would say he's written in quotation marks, right? This is not proper etiquette. We would say when is Srila Bhakti-śāstrī Maharaj coming to Sydney, like this. Okay, so Arjuna, he's repenting because he would say Krishna, Krishna, like his friend, right? He wouldn't say Shri Krishna. And so in this way he's feeling. So there we find, Hey Krishna. And then what else do we hear? Hey Yadava. Why is Yadava disrespectful? Yadava is disrespectful because all it's saying is he's coming from because it's true, isn't it? Right? Krishna is Yadava, right? But all that is saying is that he is a member of the Yadu dynasty. It is not saying that he is the best of the Yadu dynasty. And therefore, it doesn't acknowledge his opulence, even as a king. Normally, if somebody is a king, they'll say, oh, best of the Yadu dynasty, right? Forget about being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Is not even acknowledging that. You'll see that even in spiritual culture, people will do that. It's etiquette, right? I was reading the offerings of one devotee to a spiritual master, and he said, "Oh best of the disciples of Srila Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur." This was a devotee outside of ISKCON, from one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrother's disciples, right? And he said, "Oh best of the disciples of Srila Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur," right? He was saying like this. And I thought, okay, that's his mood. It's his spiritual master. It's not something that we'll get offended by. We will say the same thing about Srila Prabhupada, right? So, I was appreciating his offering. But then I heard the same devotee at another offering for Srila Prabhupada. He said, "Oh, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, you are the best of the disciples of Srila Bhakti-śāstrī Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada." So I realized at that point he's using the etiquette, right? This is the etiquette. When you want to say somebody who is very great in a lineage, you'll say they are the best of that, right? It's not necessarily saying objectively that is the case. With the Yadavas, this is the case. Yes, exactly, right? I'm not sure whether Srinivas Prabhu or Katyayani Mataji read, but together in their joint incarnation, right? They have written this, the joint Zoom incarnation. They've written, it's important to do the ISKCON disciple course and all of these things. Yeah. And that's why we always stress Vaishnava etiquette also, to understand all of these things. These are very subtle, nuanced things, right? We will think it's true, right? It's true to say he's Yadava, but that is still not fully respectful. Okay. Mrugank Prabhu was making this point earlier. I was reading, he was making this point. This is why we say Maharaj, right? For the same reason we'll say the greatest of, right? Because it is a sign of respect, it is a sign of opulence, especially because they're Maharaj of what? They have conquered the senses. Actually, you'll see the greatest kings of India, they would have their asana, and it would be a singhasana, right? In the form of a lion, right? And why is it in the form of a lion? Because the lion is the king of the animals, right? And so if you are sitting on that, that means you are the king of the animal instincts. You are the king of the senses, right? Because if you are sitting on the lion, you are sitting on the king of all the animals. The animal instinct aspect of sense gratification of human existence has been conquered by the true Maharaj, right? And therefore, the great Vaishnavas are the greatest Maharajas, and therefore we say Maharaj. Okay, anyways, coming back to the point. So Yadava, it is also considered offensive. And then finally, I think it's very straightforward. Sakha, right? Sakheti, my friend, right? He's saying, oh, so intimately, I was referring to you, just like my buddy, right? His Holiness Danodar Swami, he makes this point. You could imagine if somebody went up to Srila Prabhupada and said, hey, buddy, or something like that, we would all be offended. We want to kick the person out. You know what I mean? What then to speak about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So this is why Arjuna, he is responding like this. He is feeling, oh, I've done all of these things, and I'm feeling very, very embarrassed, very, very shy. I'm repenting for this. Naturally, of course, and I'll conclude on this point, and then we will all head off to Janmashtami. Naturally, we hear it is the case among the very pure devotees, right? That they do not respond this way. And that's what I was making this point. In Kirtans, we will take these very words, which are seen, Arjuna is saying are very offensive, and our acharyas have explained why they're offensive, and we'll use them in glorification. Why? Because Krishna prefers the love of that devotee who doesn't even care, right, for his godhood and simply loves him for that affection, right? We know it's the classic joke people make when somebody is rich, right? Did they marry the person for love, or did they marry them for the money, right? And so Krishna almost has the same thing. Do people love me because they love me, or do they love me because I'm God, right? So Arjuna, he is only experiencing this again because he's having a specific darshan. We shouldn't feel that these texts, these words are inherently offensive to tie to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? But Arjuna is simply repenting of them because of this mood he's experiencing there. Okay, we can speak more about this text, but we'll discuss it in 2 weeks. Please, everyone, have a very nice Janmashtami. I hope you enjoy it. Again, these classes, the past few ones on 11th chapter, haven't been too intense on philosophy or anything. I sort of thought, you know, A, we did very intense philosophy building up to this chapter, and secondly, everyone's busy with seva. I know lots of people would be here, right? All of these sort of issues. So we've been being a bit more relaxed. For the Saturday class, hopefully it'll get a little bit more philosophical again. We'll start going a little bit more like that. But yeah, no, all of those things. And again, just one final time, just so it's clear in everyone's head, we will not have a class at all next week. Everyone just please enjoy Janmashtami. Please enjoy Srila Prabhupada Vyas Puja. I don't know if Melbourne's doing this. Sydney is doing kids Janmashtami on Sunday. If any of you are attending that, please enjoy that as well. And I'll see you all. I will see some of you on Saturday. And then with Krishna's mercy, I'll see everyone the following Sunday. Okay? So please have a happy Janmashtami. Shri Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Ananta Koti Vaishnava jai. Okay, have a happy Janmashtami, everyone, and a happy Srila Prabhupada Vyas Puja.
Happy
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare